Mr. Zaid Ismail is in the house. Coach Zaid, how are you doing? Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. I'm questioning my sanity today for agreeing to this topic.
Oh, I was going to say, only today. For us, it's a daily thing, I don't know if it's a woman thing, but anyway, I'm not going to say the word woman. I'm not going to say nothing because the topic today is, what is it, Mr. Ismail?
We're starting off with feminism.
Yes.
But I suspect it's going to lead into a whole lot of isms because it's the ism that's a problem with feminism, not the feminine part.
Please can you break that down for us?
Oh boy. When we go to the point of an ism, like patriotism and nationalism and all of that, you've gone too far. Because you've become so fanatical about it that becomes your call to arms, your cause that you're fighting for. And then it's more about pushing that agenda or that kind of philosophy rather than looking at what problem was it supposed to solve in the first place.
What problem was that supposed to solve in the first place?
Which one? Nationalism.
I'll need 5 hours.
Oh, the feminism.
Yes.
Feminism was supposed to solve the problem of women not being treated well. Right? I don't want to... And the reason I'm being vague about it is because treating someone well is very subjective relative to their cultural norms, beliefs, customs, traditions, religious convictions, and all of that. So when someone looks at one person's life and they think that looks oppressive, and they look at another person's life and they think that looks liberating, that is like, that's establishing yourself as a kind of god of people to determine what should be or shouldn't be good for everyone else. And that's where the problem comes in, is that you end up with this generic kind of universalism that sounds all great and altruistic and, all of those good things.
Yeah.
But what it actually does is it denies people choice. It denies people identity. It denies people their own cultural norms and value systems, because now you're assimilating everyone into this central theme of what feminism is supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm. So the definition of feminism, according to the AI overview, is feminism is the belief in and advocacy for the social, political, and economic equality of all sexes. It is a range of social movements and ideologies that seek to end sexism, oppression, and exploitation and ensure that all genders have equal rights, opportunities, and treatment. What have we blurred the lines on?
You see, that last part of it actually sums it up, and that challenges the very notion of feminism about equal opportunity. But equal opportunity according to whom? And if we're going to talk about how it is that feminism is supposed to be this thing that's there to save women from what specifically, from whom specifically? From what I've gauged over time, in the course of my life, in seeing how political things play out and how history has repeated itself so many times, what I find more often than not is that there is a group, usually by comparison a small group of people who behave badly, and the victims of that group then rally support for their plight, which is nothing wrong with it, and then that plight becomes a universal theme, and then everyone treats all people who are similar to that group as if they're the same. And just to make it a bit more on point, that's what happened with feminism. We had a group of males who treated women really badly, who treated them like property, who prevented them basic inheritance and basic right over their own health and their own well-being, who literally got them to change their surnames because they belonged to them, to their estate. And those men who then treated them in such a condescending, undermining, dehumanizing way became associated with all men. And that is why we now have this universal cry for feminism, as if all men treat all women that way. Mm-hmm. And that creates more problems than it solves, right? Because previously a man who wasn't inclined towards that would now go on the defense because, like, okay, well, if you're going to come with this feminism thing at me, I'm going to come at you with how it is that I'm going to claim my space and my rights and my responsibilities. And all you got is this polarization of society rather than cohesion. Because if feminism was supposed to right the wrongs of that group that was treating people badly, women badly, why didn't we solve that problem? Why did we create a new problem by creating this universal call against everyone of the same gender just because a group of men treated women badly?
Because at its heart, feminism is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities.
Yeah, but then define that. Because if that's the case, then, oh boy, we're going to get so cancelled today.
Go for it.
If that's the case, then let's stop having conversations about parental rights. Because everything must be equal. There's a natural disposition that even mainstream psychology, and I'm saying even mainstream psychology because usually it's ludicrous, but even mainstream psychology agrees with this, is that men and women are different by design, by nature, by innate disposition. Women are focused on people, nurturing relationships and sentiment and emotional expression and emotional sensitivity, and men are focused on analytical stuff, things, solving problems, risk identification, opportunity creation, those sorts of things. So now you're saying, let's give them equal rights. And we're saying, well, the only time you'll need equal rights is if there were laws that actively prevented women from being able to participate, right? This is a very important thing. So again, in some places, in some regions, in some countries, yes, there were actively exclusive laws that prevented women from participating. So fix those laws. Don't legislate that women must participate. Right? Because you're taking away agency, you're taking away cultural identity and all of those other things. But we don't fix those laws. We turn it around into reverse prejudice. And it's like BE, reverse racism. Now, that's going to get me cancelled as well, but the point is that while there is a need for that kind of equalization or that kind of fair opportunity, the way you go about solving it mustn't create new problems.
And that leads to my next question. What new problems has this created?
Feminism?
Yes.
It's destroyed social cohesion. It's destroyed the social fabric. And that's the biggest problem, right? Because now you don't have equitable contribution. You now have everyone trying to be equal when they're not equal, because equal means same. A man and a woman are not the same. And it's our effort to try to be the same in so many ways that goes against our innate nature, both as men and as women, that causes so many problems.
So, what is the downside of feminism?
The ism.
The ism.
Literally, the downside of feminism or any ism is that it turns that into a cause in itself rather than the solution of something that is a broader issue relative to a broader, bigger, more important value that we need to uphold. So if feminism was intended to solve women not being treated badly, then deal with the men who treat women badly. Don't say all men treat women badly and that all women are treated badly. Because that's what the ism does. The ism paints it as if it's a general, pervasive, global problem. And then to support that, we'll go and we look for all of the things that fit that narrative in each of the cultures. And we'll ignore the fact that the underlying contributing factors are similar, and we won't deal with that. We'll just focus on the fact that each culture has that within it in some form or another. And that is what is effectively cognitive bias. You focus only on what feeds your narrative. You don't focus on the broader issues that contribute to it and what it is that you're contributing to in response to that.
That is deep. That is very deep. We need to digest that.
Should we unpack that? Because that's a really important.
Bias, yes.
It's really important, right? Because now someone that is typically neutral, who doesn't have a problem with gender roles and everything else, the moment they have one bad experience, they start looking for everything that resonates with that feminism narrative. I can't count how many people, and just before anyone makes assumptions about this, probably 80% or 70% at least of my clients are women, right? So this is not me speaking on behalf of men. No, I'm saying both have a part to play in this. And from the women's side, we're focusing on the feminism side, so I'm saying from a feminism perspective, what problem are we solving? Are we creating understanding, or are we creating polarization? Are we creating mutual respect and consideration for each other across the gender divide? Or are we claiming that the one gender deserves more because historically they've been oppressed?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing, right? If we go to the opposite extreme of saying that because historically they were so oppressed and historically there were so many bad things done against them, then we now have to compensate for that. That's unjust, because people who are currently in your life didn't create that historical prejudice and historical oppression.
When, in your opinion, has the rise, like when has it peaked?
That was an interesting one. I looked around and, this is where I talk about the cognitive bias. There were women who spoke out against the way they were being treated by men from the 1700s already, I think, right? But even further back than that, I saw one narrative when I was just looking into it very briefly this morning to see, what did I get myself into?
Yes.
And someone indicated that the oldest feminist is Cleopatra, because she was the first female pharaoh of Egypt, and apparently also the last pharaoh of Egypt. Mm-hmm. So what does that say? Why don't we claim credit for the fact that she brought an end to the pharaoh dynasty instead of only looking at the fact that she broke the mold of the male heirs, right?
Yeah.
So it's about accountability. If you're going to push a solution, right, and this is what I think, if anything, this is probably, hopefully, a grounding point for us.
Mm-hmm.
If you're pushing a solution and you call that solution feminism, your integrity, the credibility with which you are doing it, depends on whether or not you are also going to accept accountability for the negative consequences of it.
The negative consequences
Yes.
of feminism.
You can't only take what serves the cause and ignore all the damage and harm it's causing in the process.
Look, we've witnessed, right? If I can bring this into focus for the layperson who's listening, like our elderly listeners, like, what is feminism? What are you talking about? When we used to hear things like, your daughter-in-law drives, and some people would be like, oh, she drives alone?
Yeah.
And women, like, advocating for women's rights makes it possible. Saudi Arabia, women, it was only recently, right,
Yes.
in the last 10 years or so, that women were allowed to operate a vehicle and have
Yes.
a driver's license and be able to obtain one.
And having lived in Saudi for a while, when I saw that announcement, I thought, good, finally Saudi drivers are going to get a taste of their own. Oh, is that sexist?
Yes.
But literally, like, this is what I'm saying, right? There's stereotypes around the gender roles. There's stereotypes around just the genders, not just the roles itself.
Yeah.
Those stereotypes were developed because there's truth to it. There's enough evidence and normalization of certain attributes and traits and behaviors that makes those stereotypes relatable.
And it has promoted a very anti-male sentiment.
Yes.
Right? The feminism, if you look at the definition of what it actually was supposed to be, it was supposed to be advocating for equality, for the right to vote, for the right to have a driver's license, for those things. Like you said, the correction of the laws itself. But now we have anti-male sentiments. We've got erosion of traditional values.
Mm-hmm.
We've got one-sided solutions. And we've got fear of loss of male roles and opportunities.
Yes.
So that in solving the problem of inequality, we create inequality. To remedy one, we are shortchanging the other. So this perception, it is, like we said, it is negative stereotypes.
Yes.
And it's one group that perpetrated, and now the entire gender gets labeled. And based on that, we have a movement that is created. And it's amazing how influential this movement has become.
Yes. And it's become so influential because it is so emotive in nature, right? It's emotionally charged. And I'm not saying that in a condescending or disrespectful way. I'm saying it is a very emotive topic, feminism.
Yeah.
Right? And the intended harms that it's supposed to be remedying, I have absolutely no problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that we need to be careful about claiming rights for one group. This is not just for feminism, across the board. It's a general rule. You can't claim a right for one group that by implication denies the rights of another. By implication, you can't claim liberation while oppressing. Right? Liberation has to be something that is based on justice and fairness. It can't be based on I was the victim of your kind, so now your kind don't deserve what I deserve.
And it defeats the purpose of equality,
Completely.
generating inequality.
Yes.
Eventually.
So it just reverses the problem. It doesn't solve the problem, and that's the point, right? So and right now there's the hot topic on social media, and I think probably in the news as well, is the femicide rates.
Yes.
Right? And the GBV rates. Now, here's my thing, again, right? I'm not for 1 second suggesting that that is something to be taken lightly. In fact, quite the contrary. However, if you've got a man who is beating up a woman, you deal with that man. You don't say all men are the same. And if you don't have the means and the resources to do that, then you rally the troops to deal with that man. And there's no shortage of men who will be willing to deal with that man, right? But we don't do that because now everyone's minding their own business because of this hyper-individuality that we've got going in society. So I mind my own business, it's not my problem, I've got my own problems, this is my life, and then we lose sight of the social structures, and then we complain that the social structures are not more inclusive and not more accommodating and not more embracing. We're part of the problem. We can't keep going with this mindless kind of running off on tangents because, we feel as if our cause is more righteous than someone else's cause, and then completely ignore how it is that we're just creating destruction while we have good intention.
That focus on hyper-individualism, what exactly is hyper-individualism?
It's where you put the rights of the individual first over anything and everything that their social structures around them need from them. And here's the reason why it's a problem, right? Because someone will say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, here's what's wrong with it. The moment you put your rights first, you lose the opportunity to complain when someone else puts their rights before you. And that's the thing. If everyone's putting their rights before everyone else, what's the point of any relationship? What's the point of any social structure, of any support structure, of family, of parents and children, of a family unit? What's the point of any of that if you're going to approach it from what I need first before you get what you need?
And now when you say it back to us like that, it's sounding pretty selfish.
Exactly,
it's
right?
It's not exactly liberation.
And here's the thing, right? It's not intended to be selfish, but this is what happens if you solve the wrong problem.
And then you actually advocate for that and you recruit more troops.
Yes.
You're creating problems.
Yes, and then you look back and you think, oh my God, I didn't realize I was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And in Afrikaans they say spyt kom altyd te laat. Who's realizing about that right now? It's the generations that are growing up now being told that cut off ties. Toxic this, toxic that.
Cancel culture.
Yeah. And that's what it results in. Mm. And if you look at it, I can quite easily equate feminism with cancel culture.
How so?
You're canceling everyone who disagrees with how it is that you're trying to solve your problem.
And how sure are you that the way you're trying to solve your problem is the correct way?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not necessarily suggesting that I have the correct, ideal, balanced way to solve the problem. But if I see that there is harm being caused by the current approach to solving that problem, I am accountable for stepping up and saying, hold on, there's something wrong here. We need to solve this problem because you need to adjust your approach or your tactic or your philosophy or whatever it is, because now the problem you set out to solve is creating bigger problems.
Do you think that we have people still willing to do what you just said? If I witness this issue, I'm going to have to step up and I'm going to have to say that the way you are approaching it, your level of accountability, it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So can I suggest an alternative way? Or are people just, good walls make good neighbors?
Yeah. Unfortunately, those good walls cause us to even lose sight of who our neighbors are.
Yeah.
And when our neighbors have a problem, it's like, that's your problem, I've got my own problems.
Yeah.
So the reason why we can't have a lot of these discussions that we need to have is because of the isms. And I'm not just speaking on feminism. Look at politics. Can a socialist speak to a nationalist or a communist and then a Marxist? And you've got all of these isms that result from that, Marxism and socialism and capitalism and communism and all of that. And it polarizes. It doesn't create healthy engagement or discussion. And if you look at it, there's elements of all of those movements that has value in it. Now, the moment you attach the ism to it, feminism, you shut down any dialogue that goes against what feminism stands for. And the feminism in itself is intrinsically problematic about certain elements that it now causes in society. You can't have that conversation because now it seems as if you're attacking the movement. You're attacking what they're trying to solve as a social problem. We're not. But we need to have a healthier conversation about it, and we can't do that if it's about feminism against the world or feminism against men.
Down with the patriarchy.
I can easily argue that there are just as many women upholding patriarchy than there are, as there are men.
Yeah.
Right? And that should tell you again about cultural identity and how it is that individually we want to be able to subscribe to a structure that serves us or that appeals to our logic or our value system. When you try to create universal values at this level of detail, I'm not talking of human dignity and self-respect and all of that. I'm talking of at this level of detail where gender roles and social conduct is being defined as universal as well. You lose the plot. You're trying to create a generic version of humanity that is impossible because that just denies us our uniqueness.
And that's the thing. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. That in itself. I mean, I remember, back when we were growing up, there was not a lot of feminism talk going around. I'm talking about your 2000s at that time.
Yes.
The rise of feminism, and I'm just reading this now, actually originated in the 18th and 19th century. It was called the Age of Enlightenment, by the way.
Yes.
Right? Enlightenment thinkers challenged traditional power structures, but many, like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, still held discriminatory views of women. However, figures like Mary Wollstonecraft argued for women's education and equality, laying the foundational ideas for feminism. But that's like the right to education and equality.
Yes.
It's something that's an equal right. It wouldn't necessarily be a feminist thing.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
We're separating the oil from the water.
Yes. So, and that again, and this resurgence, because it, like I said, it went as far back as Cleopatra, and then in the 1700s or so, there was kind of a focus on it, and then in the 1800s, and then again in the 1970s, I think it was, and then again more recently in the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
So there's this resurgence each time we see that we slip as society. And that just, it opens you up for manipulation. Because one of the things that was a direct result of this, and I don't remember the actual name of the magazine, but in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken, or late 90s, somewhere around there was a French magazine owned by a man who pushed the feminist agenda so that he could increase distribution and sales. And that's the problem, is that when you get to the point of an ism, you become putty in someone else's hands.
Right.
And third forces come in and they do all sorts of things to corrupt you. Look at BEE. Third forces came in and corrupted the BEE objectives, right? And now we've got people feeding at the trough of BEE without any real meaningful shift in economic balance. So that's the problem. What problems are you creating through the methods that you're employing to resolve the problems you believe needs to be resolved?
This is very deep. I mean, we're currently in the fourth wave of feminism.
Yes.
Okay, this is characterized by greater focus on issues of sexual harassment, assault, and digital activism, as highlighted by the hashtag #MeToo movement.
Yes. And we'll keep having these waves until we realize that we're solving symptoms, not problems.
We're solving symptoms. The actual problem is who harassed you.
Yes.
What situation? Because there's this thing of we've got young girls, we've got the next wave incoming. What are we saying to our next generation?
We're telling them that you must preemptively defend yourself, which means don't trust. So don't trust anyone around you. Don't even trust the man that you're with or the woman, whatever it is. Don't trust your partner, because you have to preemptively defend yourself from them potentially treating you in this way.
And that robs you of, they say your feminine energy. Like if you are going to be the masculine energy, and then you are going to say, well, I deserve to be treated like, I deserve the soft life, for example.
Yes.
But then you are on that defensive all the time. And therefore, you are not accessing that. You're not allowing the person to take care of you.
And how many women have gone into the corporate space, into the professional space, and have decided, this is not for me, I would rather be home with my children and being a homemaker. Many. It's not me being a man saying this, but because I'm a man, I'm not allowed to say this because of feminism.
Okay, I'll issue the disclaimer. I'll repeat it. It'll get you out of trouble.
But you see, this is the problem it creates. It creates so many problems that you can't have healthy conversation anymore because everyone's so polarized. What problem are we trying to solve? We want to solve the problem of women not being treated badly. Let's take it one step further. Why are women treated badly in the cases when they are treated badly? It's because they are perceived as being weaker, right? Perceived or actually are physically, same difference. So what does it tell you? It tells you that we're raising brutes. We're raising people who don't have self-respect. And a man without self-respect and a woman without self-respect will be equally harmful to society.
Savages. We're literally going back.
And that's the problem, is that you start seeing everything as a nail and you're the hammer that's going to nail it.
Very true.
Because you've got the solution and you've got the answers and you know what it is that happened in the past when these minor issues were ignored. So now you're not going to allow it to be a minor issue. You're going to make it a major issue and you're going to make mountains out of molehills of everything that just presents itself as a possible threat to your philosophy.
And feminism has made its way into marriages, into households.
Yes.
It's caused literal divides in families, all because of an ideology like, yeah, this is how I feel. Yes, this is my tribe, and meanwhile you're robbing yourself of the truly feminine experience.
Yes.
And then blaming your counterparts for not taking care of you. Like, if you were only a little bit better, I wouldn't have to be like this. But that's the thing.
And that's got a massive impact on women's health.
Yes. Because women are not built to be protectors and providers.
Right. And when I talk about women's health, we're getting cancelled today. Let's get cancelled properly.
I think we've already gotten it. Just go all the way.
When we talk about women's health, the increase in conditions like PCOS and endometriosis and cysts and things like that, majority of those are linked to increased levels of testosterone in a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Testosterone is a male hormone.
Yeah.
Right? Which means that the more you have to operate in that masculine frame,
yes,
the more you're creating duress within yourself because it doesn't come to you naturally. And that's the differences about women are inclined towards nurturing and people and sentiment and emotional expression and emotional sensitivity, and men are problem solvers. So they don't have that disposition towards feeling something first before they want to do it. They do it because it's a problem to be solved. So now when you ask both to operate equally, you're asking a man to be as emotionally available as a woman, and you're asking a woman to be as analytical as a man. That's what equality looks like. Now you show me, and let's just get this disclaimer out of the way. Just because the dominant traits are what we describe now, that men have a certain natural predisposition and women the same on their side, doesn't mean that you're not going to get exceptions. And over the years, you've had these exceptions. Many times over. You've had women that were, or girls that were called tomboys. But they weren't shunned, they were just embraced as tomboys because they were outside of the norms of femininity relative to that social structure, right? That isn't oppression. That's not stigmatization. When you use that label as a means to treat them badly, to deny them access to what it is that otherwise they would still want to enjoy as a woman, that's oppression. And then you solve that problem. But you don't turn around and make it that everything has to change because of these exceptions needing to be absorbed. It's just that you must ensure that you're not unfairly excluding. So suffrage was one of the big reasons why it is that feminism took a surge again in the 70s, I think it was, or 60s.
Yeah.
And this is how crazy it is, right? If feminism was solving the right problems from the 1700s, they wouldn't have still had a need for feminism in the US, because that's where it all originated. In the US, because of that cultural norm of male dominance and prejudice and all of that, that's where women were treated like cattle, like animals, like property. They were prevented to even inherit. They were prevented from being able to vote. Now, there was a problem, and now we turned it into a universal problem because now apparently everyone was doing that to women. No, everyone wasn't, and everyone isn't. And the moment you start bringing in these things, you create more problems because you're now taking someone else's problem and you're looking for alignment within your own social structure and you're saying, yeah, we have the same problem.
So you're basically looking to carry on or advance a cause. So you start looking for issues to represent so that you feel relevant in your space.
Aha, you touched on the very, very important, sensitive issue. Relevance, significance, respect, feeling as if you matter. And that's what all of these isms do, right? And I've always maintained, and this applies across the board, it's not just for feminism or any of the isms, it's also for racism, it's also for classism. Any kind of elitism, academic elitism, whatever it is, this golden rule applies 100% of the time. And please tell me if I'm overcomplicating it, but this is what it is. If I don't have enough self-respect or self-esteem to believe that who I am matters, I'm going to compensate for that by associating myself with something that does. And that's why I need that cause. I need the racism, I need the classism, I need the elitism, I need the materialism. Can you see all the isms? And then I need feminism because like who I am in my individual capacity as a woman, I don't think I'm being respected, so feminism.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm a man and I don't feel respected, patriarchy, misogyny, all of that. And then you get the Tates of this world encouraging misogyny. That's the problem.
I cannot, like, as you are talking, and I'm sure our listeners as well, you're putting faces to statements. Like, everything that you're saying is bringing up a reel in my mind.
Yes.
And I'm hearing even girls in my family who are like, my brother and dad are patriarchal, and this is a 14-year-old. And I'm like, what is patriarchy? What does it mean to be patriarchal? They can't spell the word properly. Finished without going. I just want to check on my phone.
Yeah.
Siri. Yeah, Siri. You give me a second. You're too deep. This is the thing. I mean, we're talking about feminism, and the reason we're talking about it is because it's very relevant. But the thing is, what is it solving? If feminism was created at that time in the US, right? The movement was created and it was created to solve the problem. Did it actually solve the problem?
The fact that we still have needing to have this conversation means it didn't solve the problem. It just created more problems. So again, to recap, like I said at the beginning, we're not for 1 second suggesting that the actual harms, abuses, and oppressions that women experience in society is something to be ignored or dismissed. What we're saying is that let's solve the actual root causes of what creates that instead of coming up with a movement that demonizes everyone that doesn't agree with you.
I was actually afraid of where the conversation was going to go. I was. But the greater understanding that has come with that ism, that's what I will take away. And I know the listeners, the moment you introduced an ism into the conversation,
Gone too far.
Wow, we've gone way too far. How do we get back? How do we come back? What is a healthy way to look at, feminism? Or, it shouldn't even have an ism now.
No, it shouldn't.
I'm thinking, what is the healthier alternative?
Do you see the person that you're actually talking to, or do you see the political cause that you need to get them to subscribe to? We don't see people anymore. We don't see the person who we're sitting with, having a conversation with. The only thing we see is whether they're a threat or are they an ally. And it's because of this the very deep-seated insecurity we have about who we are. We don't know who we are and what we stand for, so we become defined by what it is that we fight for. And then that's why everyone needs a cause. And that's why my dig at Gen Z the other day about how it is that they have to actually name a protest after their generational identity because they're so desperately in need of an identity.
It's terrible. It's just that you talk to them and you're like, tell me about yourself. I sit on this board, I sit on that, I do this, I do that. But you're like, no, who are you?
Yes.
Not which cause do you represent, not
exactly.
Which, student, faculty, whatever, student, LRC, whatever y'all are doing. I want to know who is sitting in front of me. And they sit dumbstruck, like, what do you mean? My friends can tell you who I am.
Yeah. But you can't.
But you can't tell me who you are.
And that's the struggle for an identity. And the only reason we struggle for an identity is because that gives us a space that we can claim in society. And that comes back to the point. If you want to claim that space in society, society is not only made up of women, it's made up of women and men.
And it's not just women who were abused and women who,
Yes.
suffered and women who did not have rights. You talk about equality, then we must be willing to hear about, the inequalities that we also perpetuated.
Yes. So my question is simple, right? And the point you just made is a very important point. But if I had to make that point, it would be seen as trying to whitewash what women go through. But it's not. Because I deal with just as many men who were sexually abused and molested in their young days, and it affected them massively for life. But you see, the problem is they're not going to express that duress in the same way that a woman would express that duress. So a woman who might have been sexually molested as a child will have a very different impact on her psyche and her makeup and her sense of self compared to a man.
You're saying this, and there was a comedian who actually spoke about this.
Mhm.
Like when a man goes to report abuse at the police station
Yes.
at the hands of his wife, he literally is met with laughter and sarcasm. It was
Yeah.
one of the comedians who did a little skit on it, and he says, yeah, like literally the police will be there like, you let your wife beat you? Like,
Exactly.
what kind of a man are you? But if a woman goes, there's the victim empowerment unit where she goes to, and it's confidential, and she's handled by females only.
They've taken it one step further,
Mm.
right? Not only do they have all of that additional support structures, and I'm not again saying that we don't need support structures, but they've taken it to the point where if the woman even withdraws those charges because she decided, no, maybe I overreacted or whatever it is,
Yeah.
the state can continue that regardless of what she thinks.
Mm-hmm.
That's how far they've taken it, right? Now, good intention, bad method, bad outcome. That's what we're talking about. Good intentions, we're not judging that. We're not dismissing the good intentions. The reality of the problems that need to be solved, we're not dismissing the reality of the problems that need to be solved. The methods being implemented to solve the problems, hey, look around you. You tell me whether those methods are working or not, or are they causing bigger problems than the problems they're trying to solve.
We haven't solved much.
No, we haven't.
We have not solved much.
So my question is, and this is to everyone, especially parents, both men and women, mothers and fathers, are you raising an insecure boy who has adult privilege and then becomes abusive and abrasive and misogynistic? Or are you raising someone with self-respect? I promise you, you raise your children, men and women, boys and girls, you raise them with a healthy self-esteem, not an overinflated self-esteem, not heavy confidence, self-esteem. And if you don't understand the difference between self-esteem and confidence, you're already treading on very thin ice as a parent. If you raise your children with a healthy self-esteem, we won't need feminism, we won't need the Tates of this world to reclaim misogyny and all of that nonsense. We'll be able to have healthy conversations without the isms.
And that's a point we need to get to. Because we
Yes.
did discuss, hard times create strong men create easy times create weak men,
Yes,
and weak men create hard times.
yes. And if you look at it from that perspective, you could say the same cycle is applying to feminism. That's why we have these waves. First wave, second wave, third wave, fourth wave, because we're not solving the right problems. So the hard times that create strong men, when the next generation comes up and they enjoy the convenience of that, it's because we didn't pass on the wisdom, the understanding, the value system that caused those men to step up and create ease out of the
Yeah.
hard times.
Yeah.
So that's what they say, and I'm happy to see that there's a surge of people starting to mention this on social media, is that when you give your children everything you didn't have, are you also giving them your values? Are you giving them your grit, your tenacity, your resilience, your value system, your self-respect that drove you to want to be productive and create solutions instead of waiting for someone to save you? Are you giving them that as well? Or are you only giving them ease and convenience so that they have no reason to actually appreciate any of it because that's normal?
But
You're
that's
supposed
the
to.
messed up value system now. I want to give my kids everything I never had. What didn't you have? Cell phone, car.
Yeah.
I didn't want to work from what time to what time. My kids shouldn't have to. What about the value system that made you attain the freedom that you have now?
Exactly.
That was passed down from your grandfather to your father to you. Like, those are the things that should be the legacy. We talk of a legacy. What is the legacy? Is it the phone that can be replaced? Is it the car? You're seeing youngsters. I mean, just yesterday, I was at one of the fuel stations, very well known, but like the kids are driving convertibles, young guys, and you can see they're flexing. They want everybody to just look at them. And I'm like, do you know how long you would have to work if you actually had to work to get that? How long would you have to work? And they're spinning tires, and I'm like, if you had to work for those tires, you would never do that to that vehicle.
Nope.
You know? And that's what we are failing this generation. I think we are failing them.
And that brings me back to a question that you touched on earlier about who are you, right? And the one thing that I always, and I use it to test myself, and I prompt people around me to test themselves with the same question, and that is, if tomorrow you woke up and everything you have was taken away, what will you be left with? What will people see in you that will still have value?
Mm-hmm.
How will you react to that situation that will determine your merit and your credibility and your resolve and your values?
Mm-hmm.
That's who you are. So if you need all of that utility and convenience and security and assurance and everything else to be a good person, to have conviction in wanting to create value for you and for the people around you, to want to take care of others with whatever you have within you because you don't have anything around you, that is a reflection of who you are. And if you can't answer that question honestly, then however old you are, you've wasted that many years of your life.
That is very deep, very, very deep. Zaid, what is your closing remarks to our
Wow.
listeners today? And
Already?
God, yes.
I was waiting for the break.
Couldn't take a break on this one.
Closing remarks. If anyone takes exception to anything I've said, I want you to tell me what you have as a concern or a problem or an offense about what is being said, not about the fact that it was said.
Mm.
And this is how we need to conduct ourselves in all our relationships. If you don't like someone saying something to you, you need to be able to push back from a meaningful perspective, substantial perspective, right? What is it about what they're saying that you don't like? Or is it just that you didn't expect them to say that to you? See the person you're with. Don't see the role player or the stigma or the stereotype. See the person you're with.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't see the human in others, you're not seeing the human in yourself, because you can't give what you don't have. So if you're giving all of this political weight in everything, then that's what you see yourself as. That's how you internalize your experiences with life and your experiences with people. And then that projects onto everyone else as your call to arms, as your cause that you're fighting because you're trying to uplift society. Everyone wants to save the world, but no one wants to change.
That's so true. I mean, this conversation has opened my eyes in a unique way. I mean, I think witnessing again the revolution and the evolution, not even a revolution, the evolution of certain causes, and thinking, I always say around June Youth Day, like, you know, what are we fighting for?
Yes.
What are we fighting for? June 76 happened. They had a cause. They showed up. They fought for what they believed in, equality, rights. You know, what are our young people of today fighting for?
At the core of it, June 16th, that youth struggle, they were fighting for their dignity, right? They were fighting for dignity. I want anyone to show me where's the dignity in BEE and the corruption we have in government today. Where's the dignity in that just because we're getting our own back?
Very powerful, very powerful. Today, last week we kept it light. Today we have definitely compensated. I'm telling you, I couldn't even go to a break. Jazakallah for your time today, Zaid. Our listeners definitely WhatsApp to say they love the conversation. And please give us your contact details for anyone who would be looking for you.
Sure. Best option is to go through my website. It's zaidismail.com. And otherwise, you can get me on WhatsApp. There's also a WhatsApp link on my website where you can WhatsApp me directly from the website. Otherwise, it's 083 6599 183.
Lovely. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you next week, same time, same place on the Chat Network on 92.2 East Wave FM.